We are joining now Attorney General Merrick Garland announcing a criminal case against, quote, a nation state. It's already started, so we're going to hop to it and listen.
Against the Chinese government's aggression is that they see through Beijing's hypocrisy. For example, they see the type of CCP hypocrisy on display in our Fox Hunt case today, yet another case where the Chinese government officials and co-conspirators mercilessly harassed a naturalized U.S. citizen to try to force him to return to China against his will. They accused the victim in this case of embezzling money, but two of the subjects who targeted him, two of the defendants charged today, are themselves actually involved in a scheme to launder millions of dollars. And as if that weren't enough evidence that the real purpose of their operation was political, they gave their victim a deadline to return by, the 20th CCP Congress earlier this month. They're focused on repression, not law enforcement. But our partners also see the CCP's broader hypocrisy, the fact that while the CCP claims to stand for sovereignty and non-interference in other states' affairs, what the Chinese government actually does is interfere with sovereign governments around the world whenever doing so suits Beijing. Here, interfering with our independent judiciary, violating both our sovereignty and the norms of police conduct to run lawless intimidation campaigns here in our backyard, and corrupting our academic freedom to further their campaign of repression and theft. The FBI is going to continue to say what we mean and mean what we say. So our partners, both here and abroad, many of whom tell us they're battling Chinese aggression themselves, know they can depend on us against the Chinese government and countless other dangers. Finally, let me urge any person or company being targeted or approached by the Chinese government to come to the FBI for help. No American citizen, resident, company, or university should battle this threat alone, and you don't have to. You can report information through your local FBI field office or online at fbi.gov. And know that our quarrel is with the Chinese government, the Chinese Communist Party, not the Chinese people, and certainly not Chinese Americans. I want to congratulate all the FBI special agents, intelligence analysts, and professional staff who have worked on these cases, as well as our partners at CBP and the IRS. I also want to take the opportunity to specifically thank the government employee who played such a critical role in the obstruction of justice case. You know, we employ double agents frequently in our counterintelligence operations against the PRC's services and other foreign threats. And given the nature of that work, we very rarely get a chance to publicly thank them. So I am delighted to have that chance today. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to bring up...
Good afternoon. These three cases highlight once again the threat that individuals acting at the direction of the PRC government pose to our institutions and to the rights of people inside the United States. These operations include the harassment and attempted repatriation by force of individuals living in the United States, the effort to corrupt our judicial system, and the attempt to recruit agents for the PRC under the cover of a phony academic organization. We will not tolerate these actions. The National Security Division, which I am privileged to lead, was created to take on our most significant national security threats. These cases reflect the breadth and the persistence of hostile nation-state activity. These actions threaten our sovereignty, and they threaten the rule of law, and countering these threats is a cornerstone of the mission of the National Security Division. Our success in disrupting these threats depends on our strong partnerships with the U.S. Attorney's offices, with the FBI, and with the U.S. intelligence community. So I want to take this opportunity to recognize the exemplary work of the U.S. Attorney's offices that made these cases possible. First, the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of New York, that's led by Breon Peace, and I want to thank Assistant U.S. Attorney Alex Solomon, who is with me here on stage, AUSA's Meredith Arfa and Antoinette Rangel, as well as National Security Division Trial Attorney Scott Claffey.
All right, while he's thanking people, so it's two Chinese intelligence officers that were living in the U.S., it looks like. A press release has come out from the Department of Justice, quote, two Chinese intelligence officers charged with obstruction of justice in scheme to bribe U.S. government employee and steal documents related to the federal prosecution of a PRC-based company. We'll talk about this a little bit more. I want to get back now and see what they're talking about. So here comes Merrick Garland. Questions?
Thank you. I was hoping one of you, maybe the FBI director, could talk a little bit about the timing of this announcement coming at the end of the party Congress and the beginning of Xi's third term, and whether what kind of a signal it is intended to send to China at this delicate political time. And then, Attorney General, I have a question for you as well about another large company. Okay, all right. Make sure you come back to me, please.
So we bring cases when they're ready, and that's probably the simplest answer and most straightforward answer to that. As far as what signal they send, if the Chinese government, the Chinese Communist Party, continues to violate our laws, they're going to keep encountering the FBI.
All right, I'm back.
Thank you so much. With regard to another large company, a judge on Friday said that the families who were victims of the Boeing 737 MAX crash have standing to challenge the settlement in that case as crime victims. And I just am wondering if DOJ leadership is worried about the Boeing settlement, that it could be vacated now because prosecutors seemingly violated the crime victims' rights.
Well, it's a matter, obviously, from the question, part of ongoing litigation, so I'm just not going to be able to answer it.
First question for the FBI Director, and then I have one for the Attorney General. Director Wray, given the brazen nature of these allegations, I was wondering if you could give us an update on the level of activity you see from the PRC in terms of the number of open cases that you have at any given moment, and what this says about the potential for the midterms in terms of Chinese manipulation and or the Russians as well.
Well, as far as threat, these cases, I think, are part and parcel of a broader effort that we're seeing and have seen for some time. I think I recently commented that when I last looked, we were opening a new China counterintelligence investigation about every 12 hours. And it's about a 1,300% increase from several years ago. As far as the election itself, the threat of any nation state to our election system, to influence, to interfere, is something that we have to all remain vigilant about. In many ways, malign foreign influence, whether it's from the Chinese government, the Russian government, or other governments, is not just an election cycle issue, but a 365-day-a-year problem. And that's why we created the Foreign Influence Task Force several years ago, and that's why we work so closely with our partners in the intelligence community, with the Department of Homeland Security, and in particular with state and local election officials, which, of course, as you know, is where the responsibility for, the primary responsibility for the integrity of our election systems lies.
General Garland, given the nature of the Mar-a-Lago investigation, I was wondering, can you guarantee to the American public when the investigation is complete that there will be transparency so the country writ large will know whether there were criminal offenses that took place or not?
Look, this is an ongoing investigation, so I'm really not able to comment on it. We speak through our filings and through the cases we bring. That's the only way we speak.
I have a question about this particular case, and it's for anyone. I assume, first of all, that these two individuals in the first case and the 𝐒𝐢𝐦 case are not in custody. Is there any prospect of getting them into custody? And then, secondly, is there any sort of suggestion that Huawei was connected in any way to these two individuals in terms of inducing their behavior or being aware of their behavior?
I'm going to give Mr. Solomon a chance to answer these questions.
We're not going to comment on the identity of the company involved in the first charging instrument. And we are always interested in apprehending individuals who violate our laws and who are named in charging instruments.
But even without naming the company,
I bet you it's a cell phone company.
they were aware or participants or cognizant of this.
There's an allegation that one of the officers in the complaint refers to directions from the company to arrange a meeting, which the officer refuses.
Attorney General Garland, this is midterms related. Have you been 15 days out? We're getting closer.
When you start a question like that, you pretty much know what my answer is going to be, don't you?
There have been concerns about intimidation?
Yeah, okay, thank you.
armed
Yeah, it's got to be what that is.
people armed at
That's
polling
the biggest, thank you,
places
Titan, that's the
in
biggest.
Arizona, problems in Houston, Harris County,
Yeah, it's Hawaii, I don't know how to pronounce that, but I suspect you're correct, Titan. That's the biggest case right now. I think that's it. That's a huge one.
To guarantee a free and fair vote by everyone who's qualified to vote and will not permit voters to be intimidated.
Quick side question, if I could ask, was it a mistake to get rid of the China initiative?
So I think as these cases make quite clear, we are unrelenting in our efforts to prevent the government of China from economic espionage, from operating in the United States as foreign agents, from trying to affect our rule of law, our judicial system, from trying to target and recruit Americans to help them. I'm going to let Mr. Olson say more about the China initiative, but I think this case should be very clear that we have not in any way changed our focus on those kind of behaviors by China.
So as the Attorney General said, we have stayed very.
All right, I'm going to pause this for a bit and get into what we know and what they're claiming. So there are two defendants, 𝐓𝐢𝐦𝐞 and Zheng Wang, and they are charged with a number of things, including obstruction of a prosecution. It looks like they were interfering with the prosecution of it's a Chinese company being prosecuted in the U.S. It looks like it's Hawaii. I should know how to pronounce that. They've been in the news enough, but that's a huge ongoing thing that really needs its own show. But according to this, they sent pages. Well, yeah, okay. So apparently they attempted to get a U.S. businessman to do something illegal. We don't know what. He instead notified law enforcement. Law enforcement had I guess a double agent somewhere that was able to. Well, no, wait a minute. Maybe the original one was a double agent. It's hard to tell if the original. I think maybe the original person was a double agent. At any rate, the two Chinese intelligence officers believed they had compromised that agent. That agent sent encrypted information to them that purported to be strategy memos from the U.S. District Attorney's Office that were a strategy for prosecution of that case. So that's astonishing. This is an attorney general's, and that's what they paid for. They paid apparently 41,000 in Bitcoin to the double agent for those documents. The agent said that the documents were from the U.S. District Attorney's Office. Actually, they were working with the Justice Department to send fake documents. So apparently nothing was compromised. The original suit, we believe, has to do with a number of things. This appears, we don't know exactly how, but the Attorney General has suggested that this also has to do with intellectual property theft. That's a huge problem. Obviously, intelligence agents working against the U.S. From any company is a problem, but from China and Russia in particular. So it looks like, yeah, okay, so that's what we have. It's they're claiming that these are two spies working for China at any given time. I assume China has any number of spies here, so it's hard to tell how representative this is of the Chinese intelligence program. Obviously, this is a blow to diplomatic relations. It's actually extremely serious. That company is, yeah, okay. I'm going to go back to playing this, and I'm going to see if I can finish reading the press release that from the Justice Department. I did want to point out, we also, Clarence Thomas just ordered a stay in the order that is compelling Lindsey Graham to testify. That's a little nuanced. It looks really bad. Justice Thomas, Lindsey Graham is scheduled to testify in regards to efforts to overturn the 2020 presidential election. Lindsey Graham has been fighting that. He lost. A court has ordered him to testify. Judge Clarence Thomas has now frozen that order. Now it's a freeze. He hasn't overturned it. It's a freeze. Any number of reasons a freeze may be issued. Usually in this case it's to give the U.S. Supreme Court, or whatever court, in this case it's the U.S. Supreme Court, more time to review it and decide if they're going to intervene and how. The reason it was Clarence Thomas, of all, it could be that the other judges wanted to freeze it. I doubt it. But Thomas is the only member of the court that actually had jurisdiction in the area in which this decision was made. So he has frozen it. That does not mean that Lindsey Graham will not be testifying. It just means that as of this moment, he is not compelled to testify because the court order saying that he had to testify has been frozen by Clarence Thomas, pending, I don't know, the U.S. Supreme Court listening to it. But that's not the purpose of this, but we did want to clarify that because it's getting out that Justice Thomas has gotten Lindsey Graham off the hook, and that's a partial truth. He's off the hook for now. It's not a permanent thing, and it implies that the U.S. Supreme Court is going to consider it.
Very focused on the threat that the PRC poses to our values, to our institutions. We speak through our cases, and we speak through those cases today. And I think what we are charging today in terms of the range and persistence of the threat we see from the PRC demonstrates that we have remained relentless and focused on that threat, and we will continue to be focused on that threat going forward.
You just got rid of it in name, essentially?
So we ended the China initiative earlier this year after a lengthy review and adopted a broader strategy focused on the range of threats that we face from a variety of nation states, and that's the strategy we're carrying forward.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Thank you.
Oh, well, and that's it. I think that's the end of the conference. Let me push it forward just a bit. Yeah, that's the end of the conference. There was one highlight I wanted to hit. Let me see if I can get to that. Hold on.
District of New York and the District of New Jersey. Over the past week, the Justice Department has taken several actions to disrupt criminal activity by individuals working on behalf of the government of the People's Republic of China. As always, the defendants in these cases are presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Earlier today, in the Eastern District of New York, a complaint was unsealed charging 2 PRC intelligence officers with attempting to obstruct, influence, and impede a criminal prosecution of a PRC-based telecommunications company. The complaint alleges that in 2019, the defendants directed an employee at a U.S. government law enforcement agency to steal confidential information about the United States criminal prosecution of the company. The defendants believed that they had recruited the U.S. employee as an asset, but in fact, the individual they recruited was actually a double agent working on behalf of the FBI. As the complaint alleges, the defendants paid a bribe to the double agent to obtain non-public information, including files from the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Eastern District. They did so in the hope of obtaining the prosecution's strategy memo, confidential information regarding witnesses, trial evidence, and potential new charges to be brought against the company. The double agent provided the defendants with documents that appeared to present some of the information they sought. In fact, the documents were prepared by the U.S. government for the purpose of this investigation and did not reveal actual meetings, communications, or strategies.
All right. So here's where we stand. There are two kinds of spies in general. The first is official cover spies. What happens is they are trained to work as spies to gather information on foreign countries, and they are given a diplomatic passport. So we notify, Russia and say, hey, we have a new diplomat coming to you, and it's not really a diplomat, it's a spy. Why give them a diplomatic passport or credentials? It's real simple. It gives them diplomatic immunity. That means if they get caught, the worst that can happen is that they can be expelled from the country. They can commit murder. And as long as they have the diplomatic passport, all that can happen is they're expelled from the country. Then there's the non-official cover spies. These are spies that look like they have a regular U.S. job. Valerie Plame is one of the most famous at this point. Non-official cover. Nobody had any idea she was a spy. They thought she was a journalist. It turns out she was trained by the CIA. And non-official covers are the spies that die in the name of serving our country. Now, and Trump is fiddling with them right now, which I don't appreciate, and I think most people who understand how this works don't appreciate very much at all. All that notwithstanding, it looks like these were two non-official cover spies. It looks like they were in the U.S. One of the things that they did is it seems to that they were engaged in witness tampering. They were, and actually I may play this again just to give him a minute to explain this, but apparently they were attempting to, and I don't know who this was, if this was either the person that they were trying to get the information from or somebody who had information on them and their attempts, but they were filing false suits. They were attempting to bully and silence this person. One person involved apparently was Chinese, and they were trying to get them to come back to China, probably to face prosecution. So here's what's going to happen next. China is going to deny that these men work for the Chinese government. They are going to, it's the Mission Impossible thing. Hey, we've never heard of these people. For now, I'm going to take the U.S. government at their word, and that these are, in fact, non-official cover or NOC spies. And when a NOC gets caught, the answer is we've never heard of them. We have no idea who they are, and they're certainly not working for our intelligence agencies. Again, when a official cover is caught, it's kind of the same thing. It's like, oh, we didn't know they were spying. We didn't authorize them to spy, but then they're recalled to the U.S. and everything's fine. So that's. It looks like where we stand. I do want to hear about the intimidation charges. China is then the other thing that China is going to do, just FYI, so we're all aware. China is then going to say that this has been made up in order to instigate with China. They're going to say that we are lying about this in order to make China look bad, and they're going to demand some kind of compensation from us. They're going to sit there and say the U.S. has to retract these things. Also, the U.S. should stop messing with Taiwan. It's clear that this is all about Taiwan. They're going to say something like that. The advantage to them for doing that is they're going to try to get some kind of political leverage, especially on the international stage, try to put the U.S. in a difficult position, and it puts some pressure to release the two spies. Not a whole heck of a lot. They're going to want the spies back in one way or another. If they have any U.S. spies, something will be done. Who knows? It's hard to say. They may also just let them rot in jail. Having said that, these men were trying to infiltrate it was the which office? It was a state attorney general of Eastern District, I think is what it was. And they believe they had successfully infiltrated that office. How big a deal is this? It's hard to say because we don't know how many spies there are and we don't know how often they get caught. This was made public because while they've been working on this for a while, I think he said it was 2019 that this actually started. The documents were unsealed earlier this morning, so that's why we know about it. So it's very hard to see how serious this is. How serious this is also is going to change based on how each country decides to handle it. Obviously, Merrick Garland has decided that it's serious enough. It merits a press conference. If China decides to escalate this, then we're going to be hearing about this for a while. If not, it will be sort of, other than China's response is going to be important. Let's hear about the intimidation. I think that's the next bit in here, and then we'll start to wrap it up. I knew a spy who worked undercover as a sheep farmer. He was a shepherd spy. Oh, dear Lord.
This was an egregious attempt by PRC intelligence officers to shield a PRC-based company from accountability and to undermine the integrity of our judicial system. Also earlier today, in the District of New Jersey, an indictment was unsealed charging 4 individuals, including 3 PRC intelligence officers, with conspiring to act in the United States as illegal agents on behalf of a foreign government. The indictment alleges that between 2008 and 2018, the defendants used the cover of a purported Chinese academic institute to target, co-opt, and direct individuals in the United States to further the PRC's intelligence mission.
Okay, so that's where it's actually unrelated. It's in New Jersey. It looks like it's 3 other spies indicted in New Jersey, so that is a total of 5 spies indicted today. Okay, so that's why this is that's 5, and the others were on a campaign of misinformation, and let's let him finish that thought.
Those directives included attempts to procure technology and equipment from the United States and to have it shipped to China. They also included attempts to stop protected First Amendment activities, protests here in the United States, which would have been embarrassing to the Chinese government. Separately, in the Eastern District of New York, the Justice Department charged 7 individuals who were working on behalf of the PRC with engaging in a multi-year campaign of threats and harassment to force a U.S. resident to return to China. Last Thursday, we arrested 2 of those defendants.
Jesus, talk about burying the lead. All right, so that's 12 spies arrested today? Unless I'm missing something, this is buried there. So the U.S. has, okay. So this essentially the press release from the Eastern District is that they've arrested 2 Chinese intelligence officers. They've arrested 12. They've arrested 12 Chinese intelligence officers today. Unless I'm missing something.
Those activities were part of the PRC's global extra-legal effort known as Operation Fox Hunt. Its purpose is to locate and bring back to China alleged fugitives who have fled to foreign countries, including the United States. The PRC has a history of targeting political dissidents and critics of the government who have sought relief and refuge in other countries. The indictment alleges that the defendants, working at the direction of the government of the PRC, engaged in a campaign of harassment, threats, surveillance, and intimidation aimed at coercing the victim to return to China. We also allege that the defendants threatened and harassed the victim's family members, both in the U.S. and in China. The PRC government forced the victim's nephew to travel from China to the United States to convey the PRC's threats to the victim's son. The defendants threatened the victim, saying that, quote, coming back and turning herself in is the only way out. They showed up at the home of the victim's son in New York. They filed frivolous lawsuits against the victim and his son and said it would be, quote, endless misery for the defendant and son to defend themselves. And they made clear that their harassment would not stop until the victim returned to China.
All right, so here's what I think is going on. I apologize. It's a little convoluted and complicated. The district attorney's office for, I think, again, it was the Eastern District, has released a press release saying that they've indicted 2 people, 2 spies for attempting to get information from their office regarding the prosecution of a Chinese company. In this case, we believe it's the phone manufacturer 𝐓𝐢𝐦𝐬. That's reasonably serious in and of itself. The reason they're giving this, I mean, it's the Department of Justice, so I'd think that have opened with, we arrested 12 spies today. You'd think that's what they'd start with, and the fact that they didn't makes me wonder if I'm processing this correctly. I think I am. He's now talked about there's more than 3 cases, but you can break them up into 3 groups of cases, 3 different districts that have arrested a total of 12 spies from China. The first set was working on receiving intelligence from the U.S. District Attorney's Office, or was it the state? I'm sorry, it's tired. It's a jumble right now. I'll look it up. But on the prosecution of Huawei, the Chinese phone company, the second set was a set that was trying to quell protests against China, trying to spread Chinese misinformation, and trying to acquire U.S. IP, including technology information, and send that back to China. The third set was a set that was part of a larger campaign by China to take people who have fled China and get them to return. They were engaged in bullying, harassing, and frivolous lawsuits in an attempt to intimidate these people to come back home. So that's 3 separate sets of Chinese agents that have been arrested and charged today, totaling, if my math is correct, 12 Chinese agents. That's okay. So earlier I said I wasn't sure how big this was. Now I get it. I'm caught up. That's what's going on. He focused on the attempt to subvert the case by getting information from the Attorney General's office. That was his principal focus. But the reality is it's 3 separate sets of non-official cover agents from China. I have to believe that's a reasonably large blow to Chinese counterintelligence. It's hard to say. I don't work for China. I don't know how many people they have on their counterintelligence. But my assumption is 12 is a pretty significant blow. It takes a long time to train these people. And China is going to be... how pissed, I don't know. They're going to say they're pissed, and they're going to come at us, I would imagine, reasonably hard, say that we're making all of this up to make them look bad. For a PR sake, this actually is not necessarily going to be terrible for China. They're going to spin this, but nonetheless, that's now okay. Now I get why. Now I get why Garland is making such a big deal about this. So that's what we have. It looks like 12 spies for the People's Republic of China that have been arrested today and charged in 3 groups on 3 separate counterintelligence or intelligence gathering efforts by China. That's what we're looking at. So I'm going to play this out. I don't think there's much more, and then we're going to wrap it up, I think. And if you want to learn more, we already have this on the Discord. Dorito put the actual press release from Merrick Garland on the... Actually, that wasn't from the Merrick Garland. Sorry, the press release was from the District Attorney's Office, and that's another reason why it looked like it was limited to just that. They're just talking about the 2 people they arrested. 12 have been arrested today. We're going to collate all that. This is all breaking and still happening now. So join us on the Discord. Find that there. Let's finish playing this, and then I think we're going to wrap it up.
As these cases demonstrate, the government of China sought to interfere with the rights and freedoms of individuals in the United States and to undermine our judicial system that protects those rights. They did not succeed. The Justice Department will not tolerate attempts by any foreign power to undermine the rule of law upon which our democracy is based. We will continue to fiercely protect the rights guaranteed to everyone in our country, and we will defend the integrity of our institutions. Before I turn the podium over to Deputy Attorney General 𝐒𝐚𝐬, I want to recognize the FBI, the National Security Division, and the U.S. Attorney's offices for their extraordinary work on these cases.
All right. Yeah, so that appears to be it. It's looks like it's 12 people, spies from the People's Republic of China in 3 separate instances, being arrested and charged today. At least 2 of the indictments were unsealed today. I assume the 3rd was. Otherwise we probably wouldn't be hearing about it. And this has to be coordinated, is what this means. It means that Merrick Garland and the Justice Department coordinated doing hitting all 3 of them at the same time. All right, so that makes sense now. Like I said, go look for more in the Discord, but it looks like the U.S. has arrested 12 Chinese spies. China is going to make a statement, and we'll see where that goes. We're following what's going on with a number of different stories. In particular, we're the dam in Kherson and a few other things that we think may end up going live with at some point in the next couple of days. So we'll stay on top of that. Please like and subscribe. It really does help us out. Thank you all for coming on such short notice. That was a little bit of a surprise there from the Justice Department. And we look forward to seeing you all later. Have a good rest of your day.